to this introduction to paper cutting. My name is Liz Kokenauer. I'm a paper cutting artist, and in this presentation, I'll give you a taste of why paper cutting is a rewarding and accessible medium for both experienced artists as well as complete beginners. And then I'll show you how you can get started. I started paper cutting almost a decade ago. I started with no formal artistic training, but I was always doing little projects with my kids. In fact, my very first cutting was this monster, which my kids named Benny. Even now, it's not Halloween around our house until we cut out and name our window monsters. When I was a little girl, I used to love spending whole afternoons in our backyard. I remember watching the leaves of our grapefruit tree. The layers and layers of leaves would sway and dance in the breeze, and I thought it was magical. It's this feeling of magic that I like to explore as an artist. Some of my first paper cuttings were for my kids, and even back then I loved to try and tap into those feelings of joy and curiosity and excitement that children experience. If you're just getting started, don't worry if things don't turn out exactly as you imagined. The thing that made it fun for me was that there was no pressure to be perfect. As I kept working and trying new things, my husband got in on the fun too. With every new cutting, I tried something a little different. A new technique, a new subject matter, different colors, different types of paper, different knives. I started giving my cuttings as gifts, and that was a really great way to give myself deadlines, and the feedback I got was very motivating. When I started getting commissions, it was a great jump start to my creativity. It was so fun to see how I could realize my client's vision. It was also a fantastic opportunity to try new things. These cuttings were done for a book lover who wanted to share her love of reading with her kids. No matter what I'm cutting, I just really love the process. I love the act of creation by removal. I love how smoothly the paper cuts with a really sharp knife. I love how when they're hung in a clear frame or suspended, they become multi-dimensional objects. They incorporate the space around them. I've done lots of projects for other people, but some of my favorite projects are just for me. I love to let my imagination run wild and see if my knife can keep up. Cutting has helped me to see things and the world in a new way. All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty of paper cutting as an art form. Of course, the first thing you'll want to consider is your pattern. Once you've designed a pattern that you'd really like to cut, you need to flip your image horizontally. You can flip images in lots of different programs. I like to use Microsoft Publisher. Remember, if you have multiple objects in your pattern, you need to group those together before you flip them. Then just click Format, Rotate, Horizontal. For supplies, especially when you're starting out, you can use whatever you have available. But my favorite way to cut is on a self-healing cutting mat using a very sharp number 10A or 11 surgical blade. I also don't like to cut with my contacts in, and sometimes I use a magnifying glass. Using a very sharp knife is important for precision and also for safety. Since there isn't a great way to sharpen surgical scalpels, it's important to discard those blades safely. Never throw away scalpels. Most pharmacies or drugstores can provide you with a sharps container. Once you've filled it up, you can duct tape it shut and drop it back off. Paper is classified by its weight in grams per square meter, or GSM. Common printer paper is usually 70 GSM. It tears pretty easily and can leave some fluffy edges. For single layer cuttings, I prefer about 100 GSM, and if it needs a little more weight, 160 is about as high as I go. My favorite brands of paper are Nina Paper. I really love their So Silk collection, which has a pearlescent front and a matte back, so it's good for printing patterns, and Fabriano, which is a hammered textured paper. And although I haven't used it yet, some of the best paper cutters in the world use Japanese washi paper. The first thing to remember is to go as slowly as you need to and use a sharp blade and a light hand. Pushing too hard and going too quickly is a good way to get injured or to ruin a cutting. You can use the tip of your blade to pick out the pieces that you cut. If it doesn't come right away, don't pull on it. Go back through the fibers that are holding it in and just try again. It's important to keep the strength of the paper intact for as long as possible. The smallest cuts near the center of the paper need to come first. That takes a lot of self-control sometimes, but if you cut the biggest sections first, the paper becomes weaker. You can use your non-dominant hand to give the paper strength as you cut, and rotate the paper as you need to so you can find the best angle. As you cut around curves, take your blade out and reposition as you need to get a smooth line. Also, take breaks and remember to breathe. Once the middle cuts and more intricate cuts are done, remove the border of the image in sections. Those sections can be big or small, but don't try and cut too much at once. Again, at this stage, it's all about maintaining the strength of the paper for as long as possible. You can display the cutting in multiple ways. I prefer using a frame with 2 pieces of glass and the cutting in between. But you can also give the cutting a backing, you can use infills, you can suspend it with clips. This client wanted a little more color, so I'm in the process of using tissue paper to fill the cuts. As you begin your own paper cutting journey, remember to be brave, try new things, and tap into the joy of creating, and have fun.